Sairam students, let's begin with the class 8 political science. We are doing chapter 5. Chapter's name is Judiciary. Children, today we are doing the third part of this chapter. Let's go through the content of the chapter. We have already completed with the introduction. Then we have seen what is the role of the judiciary. Even we have learnt what is an independent judiciary. Then in our last session, we have learnt about what is the structure of courts in India. And even we started with the topic, what are the different branches of the legal system, right? But today, in today's session, we are going to repeat again the topic, what are the different branches of the legal system, as well as the last topic, does everyone have access to the courts? Now let's begin with what are the different branches of the legal system. I think children, you all remember the structure of the courts in India very well, right? It was divided. It was shown to you in the pyramid. It was divided in three levels: lower level, higher level, lower level courts, high court, and then the highest was the Supreme Court, right? Now let's again understand about the different branches of the legal system. The branches of the legal system are actually classified as in two, that is criminal law as well as the civil law. See, there are some cases which goes to the criminal law, and whereas some cases goes to the civil law. Now, criminal law, actually the cases that were related to the crime against the society were taken in that, and civil law, it is related to, now let's understand it. Civil law, it always like you can say it's related to the disputes, even it protect the women against domestic violence. The new civil laws were passed in that. Okay, now let's understand again in detail the difference of these two. The very first point of the difference between the criminal law and the civil law is that the criminal law deals with conduct or acts that the law defines as offenses. The example are here: theft, harassing a woman to bring more dowry, murder. These all cases were included in the criminal law. Now, whereas in civil law, it deals with any harm or injury to rights of individuals. For example, the disputes relating to the sale of land, purchase of goods, rent matters, even divorce cases, all these were reported in the civil law. Now, the second difference between the criminal law and the civil law is criminal law usually begins with the lodging of an FIR, that is, first information report, with the police who investigate the crime, after which a case is filed in the court. Okay, and whereas in civil court a petition has to be filed before the relevant court by the affected party only. In a rent matter, either the landlord or the tenant can file a case. Now, the third difference here is in the criminal law and the civil law is, in criminal law, if a person is found guilty, the accused can be sent to jail and he can also be fined. Whereas in civil court, the court gives a specific relief asked for. For example, in a case between a landlord and a tenant, the court can order the flat to be vacated and the pending rent to be paid. So children, I hope you have understood the difference between the criminal law and the civil law very well. Now, the next topic, children, we are going to move here is, does everyone have access to the courts? If I'll ask you in the general language, like whether everyone has access to the courts, what you will answer me? Yes, all citizens of India can access the courts in the country, right? This implies, what does it mean? This says that every citizen has a right to justice through the courts, correct? Then we can say the court plays a very important, very significant role in protecting our fundamental rights, right? So it means generally, if I'll ask you in the common language, you will say each and every citizen have an access to the court. They can go to the court if they have any issues, right? But if any citizen believes that their rights are being violated, right, then they can approach the court for justice to be done, right? This is what we have seen. While the courts are available for all, but practically, in reality, practically talking, access to courts has always been difficult. For whom? For a vast majority of the poor in India. I'll repeat. See, when we talk in general, we say yes, everyone have access to the court. But if we are talking about in the reality, the practically, the courts are available for all. It is not like that the citizens can't go. In reality, access to courts has always been difficult for the vast majority of the poor in India. Now, what is the reason why it is difficult for a vast majority of the poor in India? Why it is difficult for them? What are the reasons for that? Actually, the most important thing is the legal procedure. It involves a lot of money and the paperwork, as well as it take up a lot of time. I'll repeat again, children, why it is difficult for the vast majority of the poor in India to have the access to the court. Because of the legal procedure, it involves a lot of money and the paperwork, as well as it take up a lot of time. Now, for a poor person who cannot read and whose family depends on a daily wage means you all know very well the person who has to work daily, then only his family can get the food to eat, right? If a person like that, the daily wager, whether he can go to the idea of going to the court to get justice often seems remote for them, because their life is like, unless and until the person will not go for work, he cannot earn the livelihood for his family, the food for his family for that particular day, then it is very difficult in that practical sense for them to go to the court, right? So in response to this, to solve this, the Supreme Court in the early 1980s devised a mechanism of PIL, that is public interest litigation. Now we will understand the meaning of this. What is that PIL? Why they have devised this mechanism? To increase access to justice. Now, what is this public interest litigation? See, children, frankly speaking, from the words itself, you can understand public interest. Half of the meaning is clear to you. It is for the public and it is for the interest of the public, right? Now, let's move to the clear meaning of this PIL, that is public interest litigation. Now, what happens in this? Actually, why it allowed an individual or organization to file a PIL, that is public interest litigation, in the High Court or the Supreme Court on behalf of those whose rights have been violated or whose rights were being violated. Like, it is like, see, if something happens with me and I am a person who has to work on the daily basis, so for me it is difficult to approach the court, right? Then on my behalf, I can tell any other individual or any organization to file a PIL in the High Court or even in the Supreme Court on behalf of me. If any of my right has been violated and then I have to approach to the court, this can be done. Even the legal process was greatly simplified, and even a letter or a telegram addressed to the Supreme Court or the High Court could be treated as a PIL. It is, I can allow any individual or organization on my behalf to approach to the court. Even the legal process has been simplified in such a way that a letter or telegram that is addressed to the Supreme Court or the High Court can also be treated as a PIL, that is public interest litigation. Now, children, understand this. I think why this has been started actually. We will understand that But before that, here I have given you some images that has been given in your textbook also. Before telling you about these images, children, let me explain you about. In the early years, PIL was used to secure justice on a large number of issues, such as rescuing bonded laborers from inhuman work conditions, as well as securing the release of prisoners in Bihar who had been kept in jail even after the punishment term was complete. So, even you can, if I'll talk about this, the midday meal, you all know very well about the midday meal that the children now receive in the government and the government aided schools is because of a PIL. Now, children, let's go through this images that has been given here and try to understand what has been given in this. In the first image, that is from the year 2001, the drought in Rajasthan and Orissa meant that millions faced an acute shortage of food there. Then the second image tells you that meanwhile the government godowns were full of grain. Often this was being eaten away by rats. Then the third image, in this situation of hunger amidst plenty, an organization called the People's Union of Civil Liberties, or we can call it as PUCL, that is People's Union of Civil Liberties, filed a PIL in the Supreme Court. What does it stated? It stated that the fundamental right to life that has been guaranteed in Article 21 of the Constitution included the right to food. The state's excuse that it did not have adequate funds was shown to be wrong because the godowns were overflowing with grains. The Supreme Court ruled that the state had a duty to provide food to all. Then the fourth image shows you here, it therefore directed the government to provide more employment, to provide food at cheaper prices through the government ration shops and to provide midday meals to children. It also appointed two food commissioners to report on the implementation of government schemes. So this is what, because of PIL, the midday meal programs have been started. Now, for the common person, if I'll talk, the access to court is access to justice, right? We can say to that. The courts exercise a crucial role in interpreting the fundamental rights of citizens. And the courts interpreted Article 21 of the Constitution on the right to life to include the right to food. They therefore ordered the state to take certain steps to provide food for all, including the midday meal scheme. This is what it had been started in that way then. They therefore ordered the state to take the steps related to this scheme, that is midday meal scheme. But however, there are also court judgments that people believe against the best interest of the common person. Now let's understand why it has been believed in that way. Let's see the example related to that. See, for example, the activists, those who work on the issues that were related to the right to shelter and housing for the poor, they believe that the recent judgments on evictions are a far cry from earlier judgments. Now let's understand the meaning of the word evictions. What is that? It has been given in the glossary of your textbook, children. So let's understand what is that. Eviction means, in the context of this chapter, it refers to the removal of persons from land or homes that they are currently living in. So this is what they were believing. What they were believing? There are court judgments that people believe work against the best interest of the common person. Why they were believing this? Because of this example that I gave you here. Because the activists, those who work on the issues connecting to the right to shelter and housing for the poor, They believe that the recent judgments on evictions are a far cry from the earlier judgments. Now, the another issue people were facing that affects the common person's access to justice is the inordinately long number of years that courts take to hear a case. Now, here, what is that connected to this? It says that you all know very well if a person approaches to the court, the matter is not solved immediately. It takes many years together to solve that issue, right? So that is the reason the another important issue that affects the common person, that stops the common person to go to the court for justice, is a long number of years that the courts take to hear a case. So the phrase goes along with this: justice delayed is justice denied, is often used to characterize this extended time period that the court take. Now, here an example has been given to you. This above photo shows the family members of some of the 43 Muslims of Hasimpura, that is Meerut, that killed on 22nd of May 1987. It is the case of 1987. These families, they fought for justice for over 31 years. You can imagine 31 years. Due to long delay in the commencement of the trial, the Supreme Court in September 2002 transferred the case from the state of Uttar Pradesh to Delhi. That is 19 provincial armed constabulary PSC men faced criminal prosecution for alleged murder and other offences. So by 2007, only 3 prosecution witnesses had been examined. Finally, the Delhi High Court convicted the accused persons on 31st of October 2018. So this example has been shown to you just to understand how many years it has taken for the issue to be solved in the court. But then too, in spite of this, we can say, see, there are some drawbacks in judiciary, no doubt. We can't say that, no, it's not there. But then too, in spite of this, there is no denying that the judiciary has played a crucial role in democratic India. It is also serving as a check on the powers of the executive and the legislature, as well as in protecting the fundamental rights of citizens. See, whatever are the drawbacks, but we cannot deny this important fact also. Judiciary has played a crucial role. It has played a very important role in democratic India. Even the members of the Constituent Assembly had quite correctly envisioned a system of courts with an independent judiciary as a key feature of our democracy, right? Though there are some limitations, but then too, it has played a very important role in that. Now, children, in today's session, what we have learned, we saw the difference between the criminal law as well as the civil law, that is the 2 branches of the legal system. Then we saw whether each and every person have access to the court or not. Then what did we see in that? Yes, actually speaking, everybody has access to the court, right? But due to some limitations, like the vast majority poor people, they cannot go to the court. Why? What is the reason for that? Because the legal procedure involved a lot of money, as well as the paperwork is more in this. So, and the daily wages, the poor people, those who cannot read and whose family depends on the daily wages, he cannot devote the whole time for the court, going to the court. So in response to this, what the Supreme Court has recommended, what mechanism has been devised here? That is the mechanism of PIL, that is public interest litigation, right? Why it has been implemented? To increase the access to justice. It allowed an individual or organization to file a PIL in the High Court or in the Supreme Court on behalf of those whose rights were being violated, right? And even the legal process that was greatly simplified, even by giving the letter or the telegram. Also the Supreme Court or High Court, the person can take that letter and telegram, and that can also be treated as a PIL. This is what we have seen. Then because of PIL, the midday meal scheme that the children are now receiving in the government schools, that has been started, right? And the second problem we saw for the common person to have the access to the court is like it takes a long years, right? The number of years that they have to spend is more. Long number of years that the court take to hear a case for them is one of the issue again. But whatever are the issues, then too we can say the judiciary has played a very crucial role in democratic India, as well as in serving as a check on the powers of the executive as well as the legislature. And one of the important is like it has helped in protecting the fundamental rights of the citizens, right? So today we have completed with our chapter number 5. I hope you all have understood the chapter very well. You will go through the presentation as well as go through the chapter, read the chapter very well and try to write the important points of this chapter. And then so see you in the next session with a new chapter of our social studies of class 8. So till then children, take care and thank you.